Hello, Music at Noon lovers. How are you today? You must be fine. You're all chit-chatting and having a party. How's the party going here? Are we having a party? Earth? How's the party going? Are we having a good time yet? How can you have a good time? You haven't heard any music yet. There's no music there. Oh, okay. It's all in your mind. Well, welcome to Music at Noon. I hope you arrived without too much heat on your face. But here we are, it's summer. It always arrives, doesn't it? Even when we think it's never going to arrive. It was a cold winter for me. I'm always cold. But now I'm comfortable, and it's not too bad in here, is it? Yeah, it'll stay good for a month or two. We have no air conditioning here, but we have a whole house fan that was put in 1927. And we use it when it starts getting really warm during the day, but at night it brings in the cool air. So Albany Consort is our ensemble today. They have been playing beautiful music for us for quite a few years, but even longer than that, they have been playing together. Some of our artists today have been playing together. Should I say, I don't have to say the years, I can say almost celebrating their golden anniversary. I could put it that way. We're talking about Albany Consort, which started on Albany Street in London. Maybe. Okay, I didn't make that up. And so traditionally they play early music, and they always bring so many different instruments and varieties of ensembles to Music at Noon. And today we will be experiencing a portable organ, which you can't quite detect up there, but it's there. And viola da gamba, recorder, and violin. Well, so we have Jonathan Salzedo on the portable organ. We have Marion Rubinstein on the recorder, Rachel Hurwitz on violin, and Roy Whelden on the viola da gamba. And I think that Jonathan will probably chit-chat with you and tell you a little bit about the music. Is that true? Please welcome Albany Consort.
We're going to start the program with Telemann. He was a much more popular composer in his day than he is now, overshadowed by Bach. In their day, Telemann was the more popular composer because his music is just a lot easier to listen to. Telemann was also a genius when it came to publishing his music. He did his own lithography, which was before the days of computer. It meant that you really had to learn the art of writing backwards on a piece of metal. And it's not easy to do if you've ever tried that, even if you have a mirror. Telemann published his own music, and he published it sometimes in installments. So the movements that we're going to play are from a single suite, but they were published in 4 consecutive editions of his periodical. So if you wanted the whole thing, you would see the first 2 movements in the first edition, and then you'd have to wait for the next edition to get the next movements. So every edition ended with a cliffhanger. The movements after the introduction are the names of ladies in mythology, and you may recognize some of the names. If you don't know about these characters, you may get a sense of their character from listening to the music. And I'm not going to tell you the stories now, it would take too long. When you get home, I invite you to look them up and see whether your thoughts about these ladies were the same as their actual characters in reality.
Thank you.
In case you're wondering why we had to bring an organ when there's a perfectly good one right there. The church organs are always in the wrong place, you know. Then I would be sitting, I don't know where the keyboard is even, and I wouldn't be with my friends down here. So that's why we like to have an organ that you can put inside the ensemble. There are other reasons too. The pitch and the tuning, we like to have control over that. You can actually get organs that are portable, that actually have pipes, but then the range of sounds on them is somewhat limited to the pipes within. This, even though what you can see here probably is there are 4 tiny speakers, there's a bucket full of electronics. If you come up afterwards, you'll see that I am actually playing a keyboard. It's an amazing folding keyboard, so that all this whole thing fits inside a suitcase, so you can take it on tour. We took it to Virginia a couple of weeks ago for playing out there, and it travels well. A quick demo. The smallest sound I can make on this instrument is just one 8-foot pipe turned on. Now, if I turn on not quite everything, but most of it, be prepared for a shock. And I'm actually, right now, I'm at 62%. So there's more inside this than what you just heard. We adjust it every time we go anywhere to compensate for acoustic and just how the balance works with the group. We hope that you're able to hear it, but that it's not overpowering anything. And I'm enjoying having the variety of sounds that I have here, so that sometimes I can be really quiet and sometimes out in the forefront. The next 2 pieces we're going to play as a group. The Prélude that Roy's going to play by Getreue, and then we're going to join it immediately with the movement from Lucretia, which Marion's going to tell you something about.
Actually, I'm not. I'm going to tell you something about this instrument that I'm about to play. I was playing an alto recorder before. This is a voice flute, which is a tenor in D, which means it has the same range as the flute of the period. So what that means is this music is very appropriate for this particular instrument, since it was used in France in the 18th century. So this is supposedly to substitute for the flute, but if you ask me, I like it more.
Jonathan, bring us up to date on which number you're on. We want to make sure we get the overlays correct on the live stream. So let us know where you are now. Thank you.
The next piece we're going to play is the Sonata by Bieber, and I think Rachel's going to say a few words about this.
Okay, so we're going back maybe a few decades to a slightly earlier composer. Bieber wrote this collection of rosary sonatas or mystery sonatas to represent the 15 mysteries of the rosary, 5 joyful mysteries, 5 sorrowful mysteries, and 5 glorious mysteries. And they're really one of the most wonderful collections written for the violin before Bach. Bieber is one of those composers that's having quite a second life because of the early music movement, but when I was going through school, nobody ever had told me about Bieber, and when I discovered these sonatas, it was like this amazing treasure trove. What's really special about them, and you won't get to hear it today, unfortunately, but I'm happy to tell you more about it afterwards, is that most of these sonatas are not written for the violin with standard tuning. The standard tuning on the violin is the low string G, then D, A, and E. But Bieber uses this technique that was rather popular at the time called scordatura, which basically means you retune your strings to facilitate certain kinds of techniques that otherwise would be impossible or very difficult on the violin. And of course, that also changes the resonance on the instrument because you don't have these open fifths, which make the instrument really resonate. So especially with some of the sorrowful mysteries, he develops these scordaturas that make the violin into a completely different sound that is very specific to the content, actually, of the sorrowful mysteries. But the one I'm going to play is the first of the collection. It's the Annunciation, so the angel coming to Mary. And it is actually written for standard tuning, as is the last piece in the set, which is a 16th sonata. It's actually just a passacaglia, so it's a repeating bass line, but a solo, no continuo, just solo, like the Bach unaccompanied sonatas, which Bach certainly would have known this piece. Many people think of it as the greatest work for solo violin before the Bach chaconne. So I hope you enjoy this first of the mystery sonatas, the Annunciation.
You haven't probably heard of Robert Valentine. He was born in England of a musical family, but spent most of his life in Italy. He was apparently well known as a violinist, an oboist, and a recorder player. And I'd like to read you something that was written in his lifetime. And it says, "And to come nearer to our own times, it may be remembered by many now living that a flute was the pocket companion of many who wished to be thought fine gentlemen. The use of it was to entertain ladies, and such as had liking for no better music than a song tune, or such little airs as were then composed for that instrument. And he that could play a solo of Robert Valentine of Rome was held a complete master of that instrument."
We're going to finish with Vivaldi. In his day job was to teach girls at an orphanage, and they were sometimes abandoned girls, the illegitimate children of rich people, and Vivaldi had this wonderful captive audience of willing students, and he wrote virtuoso music for them to play. They would give concerts to the delight of many tourists and visitors who loved seeing these girls perform. And this is probably one of the pieces that he wrote for them. Some of the pieces that are extraordinarily difficult. Of course, that was his day job. What he really liked to do was to go on tour as an opera impresario. His operas are difficult to put together now. They were so popular in their time that they were heavily plagiarized. So often he didn't write out all the music for them. The musicians were expected to be able to improvise. That was mainly just to avoid other people getting hold of the music. And so if you hear operatic elements in this music, if you hear that dramatic content, that's where it comes from.
Yeah, one more time. You have to go to YouTube for that and play it again. Your scholarly approach to music is wonderful that you brought that from England to America. Trevor Pinnock would love what you do, I'm sure. You're right up there with world-class articulation, world-class scholarly interpretation of the delightful nuances that those phrases have to offer. You are really wonderful. It's such sweet music, and you play it. You don't have to shout at us. You play it with grace and great beauty. Thank you so much. They came all the way from the Bay Area, in some cases almost farther, South Bay Area, to play for you today. I couldn't help notice that the violin had a lot of similarities to my simple mind as the TELEMANN. The Vivaldi did not have the stereotypical sequential work that often we get the complaints about Vivaldi wrote 1,000 variations of the same concerto. But that certainly wasn't in that same stereotypical vein. I found it to be very interesting.
No, that's right. I think that's one of the reasons why we like this piece and often come back to it, because it is very eclectic in its style. If you're curious about the organ I'm playing, come and take a look.
Thank you again very much. We hope to see you again. Thank you. Take care. Okay. So yes, you have been invited to look at his suitcase portative organ there, or portable organ. But next week we do have a program given by not only a clarinetist, he's also going to play the flute and the saxophone for you. I'm sorry, not at the same time, but he will play them individually. And then they will bring with them a pianist, a cellist, I believe it is. You can see the music, the program online if you want to go to music@noon.org. Thank you for coming. See you next week. Bye for now.
Very cheap keyboard, $150, and it is actually a whole instrument. It is actually a piano with a lot of other sounds, and we're just using it as a MIDI controller. But the really nice thing about it is that it folds in half. And so that means that you can actually pack it into a suitcase. So the whole thing goes into a standard size suitcase. It's a rugged suitcase because obviously it's going to be thrown around a lot if it goes by air. So the whole thing comes to 62 pounds, and which is a little bit overweight. So sometimes you get charged extra for that. But at least it can all go in one bag and just roll it in. Yeah. Yes, I mean we tried it in a few spaces. You know, obviously you can see how big these speakers are. They're really tiny. There's 4 of these, and I've got them pointing in different directions. This one and that one. This is the only one that points straight out, and this one points kind of off to the side. Because that seems to work better with an organ if you don't project all the sound in one.